Hot mess would definitely be a good term to describe my first 2 weeks of going full-time in my business. Why? Well, it wasn't that I was falling behind on my projects or that clients were unhappy with my work. Nope. My hot mess situation was 100% happening in my head, even though, for the most part, things were actually running quite smoothly. I had run the Page Studio for almost a year and a half as a side hustle before I was able to take it full time. I had a little thing called a master's degree to finish off before I was able to fully commit to my web design business. I was over the moon to finally be able to put all of my time and effort into the one thing that I had been loving as a side gig for so long. I just knew it could be a thriving business if I just had the proper amount of time to commit to it. After all, it's a little tough to grow an empire when you only have an hour or two a day to devote to it. One day, about 2 weeks into working full time in my business, I opened the front door to my neighbor, an immaculately dressed 6-foot-tall blonde girl who looked like she was in a bit of a rush. "Do you have a package for me?" she asked. The delivery man had quickly realized that I worked from home and was there constantly, so I'd become his favorite person to leave packages with for my neighbors in the apartment. So I handed over the Amazon package to my beautiful neighbor, closed the door, and proceeded to feel absolutely terrible about myself. She was dressed perfectly, coming from some sort of professional workplace, and in a rush to head off somewhere else. I was still in pajamas at 4 p.m., hair was a mess, hadn't gone outside in a couple of days, and felt completely alone in my new city. As a person whose favorite jobs has always been where I worked with others, suddenly spending all day with just myself and my laptop within the four walls of my place was starting to take a toll on me. I worked all day with no breaks, and I got frustrated with the slow speed at which I felt like I was making progress towards my goals in my business. I would wake up whenever I felt like it and then take my sweet time doing a whole lot of nothing before wandering into my office. I'm my own boss. I set my own hours. I don't need to work 9 to 5 like everyone else in the world, I thought. Turns out my newfound freedom and flexible hours was not leading to the happiness that I actually expected. I was on the verge of tears every single day with a constant feeling of anxiety and panic. My then boyfriend, now husband, came back from work every day to an increasingly miserable version of me who would start crying at a moment's notice over just about anything. I was completely jealous when he would head out to work events or drinks with coworkers and even after-hours meetings that he hated going to. While I was indeed booked solid with client projects, I was still gripped with fear that somehow I wasn't going to be able to pay for rent or for my life, etc. Throw all of those bad habits together, and I felt like the world was happening around me and I wasn't a part of it. It was honestly the strangest feeling and one I'd never had before. But that's how going full-time with my business started for me. Lonely and anxious and paralyzed with stress. I 100% attribute my hot mess stage to those bad habits that I developed. The next day, a part-time job basically fell in my lap, and off I went back to working for someone else in the real world while running my business on the side again. Yep, I went full-time with my business for a grand total of 2 weeks before running back to the stability of working for someone else. Looking back, that job was an absolute gift in making me realize how much I truly wanted to make my own business a success and take a second crack at it. With my second attempt at going full-time, I knew I needed a game plan. I don't mean a business plan, I meant like a mental game plan. My own mind, my self-doubt, and my anxiety completely sabotaged my first attempt at going full-time in my business, so I knew that it was the most important thing to keep under control the second time around. So if you're currently finding yourself in a similar boat where your own mind is constantly attempting to sabotage your business, then stay tuned for the 6 changes, which I started implementing that completely transformed the way I felt about my business. But beyond making over your mindset, if your business could also use a little help in the client management department, then you're going to want to take advantage of a new resource which I created, which I'm giving away completely for free, called the Complete Client Process Template for Web Designers. No more winging it with client projects. Grab the Complete Process Template and Checklist here or also at the link in the description below. All right, so change number 1 was actually leaving the house. Yes. I decided not to allow myself to work from home all day, every day anymore. Not only is it lonely, it is also hella easy to procrastinate. So on days my husband was home, I'd work from home too, because I wouldn't be completely alone then, but otherwise I made sure to get out of the house at least for a few hours a day. I swear, my neighborhood at the time was classy coffee shop central, so thankfully I had a lot of cafe options close to me. I would also occasionally head to the library to work, and I even looked into joining a co-working space at one point too. So if you feel like your days are just running together and you can't seem to make progress despite a crazy number of hours huddled over your laptop at home, then a change in scenery is a great way to get yourself unstuck. Change number 2, wear pants. Just kidding. Change number 2 was get dressed and pretty every day. While my office didn't have an official dress code and there was no boss to send me home for wearing pajama pants, I also knew deep down that when I look good, I feel good. And when you feel good, you just naturally tend to do better work. Not to mention, when I'm feeling presentable to the world, I tend to procrastinate less on leaving the house, which, as we just discovered, is vital for keeping my mind in line. So if you're currently struggling to draw a line between your home life and your work from home life, then try saving the pajamas for planned off days only. Change number 3, going to socials at least 3 times a week. Okay, so I realize that 3 times a week might sound a bit extreme if you're used to living the entrepreneurial hermit life, but for me, I decided 3 was the perfect goal. Just like a change of scenery can work wonders, having an actual face-to-face human interaction can also help you deal with feelings of burnout and loneliness in your business. So without a doubt, the worst part of working for myself back then was my lack of coworkers because I had very little social interaction in my job. It was extra important that I meet up with friends or go to events multiple times a week. So honestly, believe it or not, going to socials at least 3 times a week was a goal I legitimately worked towards and would even get slightly upset with myself if I didn't actually meet it. Now, if 3 social outings sounds a bit over the top or just downright unrealistic for you, then just start with 1 and give yourself something else to look forward to in your week besides just more work. Change number 4 was setting actual office hours. Now, this is probably the most important change I could make in transforming the way that I felt about my business. Before setting some boundaries for myself and the way I worked, I would just wake up whenever I wanted, work during the day when I felt like it, and just generally feel pretty guilty for my lack of any real schedule. Not to mention, working odd hours made seeing friends and my then boyfriend, now husband, kind of tough. So even though the point of starting your own business is that you don't have to work from 9 to 5, having a proper work schedule turned out to be a really welcome change in my life. So I decided that I was going to work from 10 to 6 with a 1-hour lunch break. At times when I needed or wanted to work past 6 p.m., I let myself do it, assuming I was still on track to meet my social goals for the week. Now, setting some office hours allowed me to be super focused and on task while I was working and made it easier for me to stop obsessing over my business when I wasn't working. Change number 5 was reading and practicing the miracle morning. So for a few months, I had already been doing and loving something called the 5-minute journal, which was basically a little day planner with built-in prompts and questions to help you get your mind right for the day. And after watching a video from educator and life coach Danny Watson, in which she recommends Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, I decided to give the book a read. The Miracle Morning includes what is basically the 5-minute journal concept, but then it just kind of builds upon it. It was the perfect morning routine to keep myself focused on my goals and take care of my mind before starting on my work. Okay, and last but not least, change number 6, mindset consciousness. I literally decided that I would not allow myself to have a negative thought roaming around in my head anymore. We all have dealt with negative self-talk running around through our minds before, but I became very conscious about not entertaining them any longer. The whole, no one will book you, this blog post I'm writing is crap, thing was simply no longer allowed in my mind. Each time a negative thought like that came through, I replaced it with the exact opposite and repeated it to myself or wrote the thing down. So my absolute favorite book on this topic for positive self-talk is called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I promise you, you will laugh your ass off throughout the entire thing and then come out truly believing that you are a badass with no room for negative self-talk. What happened to my business after I made all of these changes? I am so happy to report that I worked my buns out of that rut I was in, I didn't fall back into my bad habits, and I truly woke up every single day feeling grateful for my business. I realized that I had built something for myself that very few people had, and sometimes I would just be sitting in a coffee shop writing a blog or working on a client's pretty about page, and I would just think to myself like, wow, is this my real job? Like, it's some sort of pinch me moment. I loved it. So if you're a web designer who's currently feeling the side effects of working for yourself full time and could use a little help picking up your mindset and falling back in love with your business, then I highly recommend giving these new habits a try. So that's it for my tips today. Don't forget to grab a free copy of that client process template on your way out the door. You'll find the link to that waiting just for you in the description below. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to let me know by giving the video a thumbs up. And remember, for the best tips on building a web design business that you love, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the little bell button so you'll be notified when new content drops on the channel every single week. Wondering what to watch next? Check out these videos too.